Dear all, welcome to the Baltic Media Grant Program final conference. The hosts of the program had great plans to gather you all together, not online, but gather you all together live. So you could meet together physically to get to know each other better and network. But we know all why this is not going to happen. This is new normal and welcome to new normal. But let's make the best out of what we have, since we have a very good reason to be here together today. The Baltic Grant Program that lasted for 3 years has ended. And most of you today have taken part in it in one or another form. But first things first, let's talk practical things. My name is Ruslanas Iržikevičius. I am a founder and editor of the Lithuania Tribune, a news portal in English about Lithuania. I will be your host today. You most likely know already that the conference is going to consist of 3 sessions. I would also like to draw your attention about cues, questions and answers at the end of the session or at the end of each presentation. So please be active and ask your questions. I will remind that before each session. I would also ask to introduce yourself briefly in the session, in the question, and ask to whom that question is addressed. And we have a great variety of participants who are various Baltic media and minority groups players, Russian and Polish language media outlets, national media outlets, journalists, academia, institutions in the field of media and minority issues, and the donors, various donors, international donors. Most of them are those who took direct part in the program. Just a remark. In 3 years of its existence, nearly 80 of projects were funded by the Baltic Media Grant Program. Almost 560,000 euros were granted, providing an opportunity to expand free and independent minority language media in Baltic countries, in Russian and in Polish. As we all know, the program was created to support the quality of media content and strengthen minority language media production in Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, in Polish and Russian. The program's main objective was to raise the quality and attractiveness of local, regional and national media and media products in the Baltic countries. The program's goal was to augment and enhance high-quality content in local, regional and national media products and media outlets in the Baltic countries in Russian and Polish by providing small-scale grants. Also, one program finishes, another starts, and I would like to emphasize that and remind you, some of you, that there's an open call of the Nordic Media Grants Belarus program. The deadlines for application is the 15th of November, and the information, you can find more information on the www.nordicmediagrantsbelarus.org. Dear participants of the conference, we gathered today to reflect on the program. Listen to some of the program participants who will tell us more about implementation of their projects, what worked well, what did not work, what objectives they had and what objectives they managed to achieve. We will also be hearing experts on the latest trends in the media world. So once again, thank you for being here, and let us dive in. And first things first, let's begin with open remarks. Today we have two distinguished guests who would like to welcome the conference, and the first is Mr. Jens Nytoft Rasmussen, who is a senior advisor of Nordic Council of Ministers. So Jens, hello, and the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Ruslanas. Nice to be on board. I'd like to address all of you, Minister, Chairman, specialists, participants. Good morning, everybody, and warmly welcome to this final conference of the Nordic Council of Ministers Baltic Media Grant Program, a program which is given to support to minority language media productions in the Baltic countries from 2017 to 2021.
To me, it is a great pleasure and honor to witness the accomplishment of the effort over the years by our offices and all the partners involved. Congratulations to all of you.
I'm not in a position to give a similar special address in Polish, even though I know, especially for Lithuania, the Polish minority is as important as the one I just tried to speak Russian in. I'll go further on and just sum up that the situation for media has been and still, of course, is developing, probably always will be developing, and it's posing serious challenges, not only to the profession, but also at the societal level. Most of you would be even more familiar with this situation than me, but let me just mention a few points. What we see is an accelerating speed of media flow in societies and leading to what is now called a kind of a dromocracy instead of democracy. Now we have dromocracy, which is that the media is setting the agenda and is always having news. So the agenda is very, very rapidly changing all the time, not really being developed and deepened. Also, we see this in the global village, that all information has a chance or a risk to unintendedly enter a global scene with several potential different contexts and connotations occurring. We see an interest for and support to the public media services is questioned. We see fragmentation in audience, and we see development of echo chambers, especially in the social media. We have a rise of digital and social media, and we have a similar decline of printed matter, radio, and flow TV. I think also we've needed to revisit the concepts of manipulation, propaganda, and disinformation. What does these concepts mean also in a society where you have open speech democracy? For the consumer, in these situations, would need to focus even more on who is the sender and what is the context of a given message, instead of having the full focus on the content of any specific piece of information. It takes an effort for the reader to understand what's going on. And of course, all this leading that there is a need for strengthened media literacy education, of course, for the young generation, but in principle for all of us. These are all important elements of the backdrop, just as it was the general backdrop in 2015, when the NB8 foreign ministers of the Nordic and Baltic countries wanted to take action. Based on the post-2014 geopolitical situation, the Nordic Council of Ministers was asked to support the 3 Baltic countries in their efforts to address the substantial Russian-speaking communities. In all 3 countries, there was, and probably still is, a relatively limited supply of qualitative Russian language media, particularly at the local level. This contributed to a situation where language minorities in the Baltic countries often became users of media content and information produced by media out from the Russian Federation. In many cases, this proved non-supportive in terms of inclusion of the language minorities in the national societies. The focus for the NCM has been to provide support to quality media production about local condition for the local people in their language. The purpose has been to improve the access to balanced, independent information, which would lead to better opportunities for inclusion of mainly the Russian-speaking people and for their participation in the future development of societies. This rather soft initiative, you might say, that was supported by the Nordic Council of Ministers have been complementary to other activities of national and other international institution programs in this sphere. Let me briefly sum up. The support has been provided for program production at the Estonian public service media TV channel ETV+. This pure Russian language channel was established in 2015. We've supported training and competence development for media and journalists. It was in the field of investigative journalism, news verification, online media, rights and ethics in journalism. Another one has been education and education in media and information literacy. It has been provided for teachers, pupils, and students. Also, skills within media literacy was tested and demonstrated for the public during democracy festivals in the 3 countries. In early 2018 in Riga, the Nordic Council of Ministers supported a needs assessment forum for Russian language media. It resulted in a number of recommendations for the future initiatives in the field. Let me also briefly mention that in 2016, the Nordic Council of Ministers opened a small presence in Russian-speaking Narva in Estonia. Just a few months ago, also a NCM presence was opened in the multicultural city of Daugavpils in Latvia. And then last but not least, what we are focusing on today, the Baltic Minority Language Media Grants Program. This program has now come to a conclusion, and it will be very interesting for all of us during today's conference to hear more about the results, the lessons learned, and the perspective of this effort. I'm looking very much forward to that. And also, as was just mentioned by our moderator today, this experience could prove of relevance for the Nordic Council of Ministers Belarus initiative. It was decided by the Ministerial Council to establish a media support program in relations to Belarus. It is managed by our Lithuanian office, which of course now have experience. Of course, the concept is more or less similar to the newly one accomplished, but of course, the audience and the context is totally different. We all hope that it will be successful. And by these words, I will wish us all a fruitful, nice day. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much for your insights and for putting the right footage for our conference. And as I mentioned before, we will try our best to reflect on the experiences of the program, and I hope that this is going to come out as very, very useful, not only for the participants, but also for the organizers of the program, to get some feedback on what actually worked, what didn't, what to do better. So Jens, thank you so much again. And I would like to invite another person who would like to welcome the conference. His name is Davidas Velkas. And he is head of media and copyright units at the Ministry of Culture of Lithuania. Hello, Davidas, and thank you for being at the conference. And so the screen is yours.
Thank you, Ruslanas. Dear Jens, conference participants, conference organizers, and colleagues, it is a pleasure to participate and to welcome a community that is so closely knitted and that works towards noble goals, the most prominent feature of which is assistance and a desire to help others. This is exactly what the Nordic Council of Ministers looks like from the outside. Its support for the Baltic civil society and as well the media has created added value over the years while creating high quality, trustworthy and diverse media content. Due to these grants, we have excellent results, and I hope we will see some of them here today. From relevant journalistic content, stories not yet heard or already forgotten, to new media projects in national minority languages. What does make these council activities so special? It is the fact that it takes a look at the media of national minorities and smaller communities, drawing attention to this important yet fragile segment of the media. This provides an opportunity for society to immerse itself in a greater space of culture, debate, and multilingualism. It also forces us to have another serious thought, not only about others, but also about ourselves. It complements the diversity of opinions even more strongly, and like a magnifying glass, it enlarges the world represented by the media. It makes a lot of sense that the Nordic Council of Ministers' helping hand is being extended even further, not just to the Baltic communities. Independent Belarusian media and journalists are also expected to receive support in the near future. Unfortunately, not all of them are free to operate in this country. As close neighbors, we are observing the difficulties faced by the civil society and the media very closely. However, even in such a squeeze, some things are gratifying. Belarusian journalists are not only grateful for their help, they are also ready to provide help. The Minister of Culture sincerely thanks the Nordic Council of Ministers and its office in Lithuania for all their initiatives and support. This hasn't gone unnoticed. Ladies and gentlemen, let this final conference continue the work that has already begun. Thank you.
Dear Davidas, thank you so much. And as we can see from the slide review, from the picture from where you actually made your presentation, in the background we see Lithuania's map, and next to it is Belarus. So, of course, so this is why it is so important for all of us, to make sure that Belarusian people have also privilege to have some sort of a media and obviously better free media. So it's going to be very, very important to make sure that we, the Baltic countries, and also the Nordic countries, we support them. So thank you so much for taking part in the conference, and we will keep in touch as organizers. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will start our first session. And the session is called the Grant Media Program Highlights. There are going to be 3 presenters from Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And once again, I would like to encourage you to write questions and ask questions, because after each presentation, we will do the questions and answers session. So, first presenter is Mr. Oleg Yerofeev. He's editor-in-chief of RU Delphi. And he's going to be talking about 3 projects. One of them was a video reportage about dialect-speaking Tateush people. One about Lithuania in the 90s. And the last one is about the everyday life of passengers on the border trains. So, from Tateushi through We Are From 90s up to the companions.
Thank you, Ruslan, Jens, Davidas, my dear colleagues, participants. It's a pleasure for me to participate in this conference. And firstly, I would like to thank the Baltic Media Grant Program, Nordic Council of Ministries, Lithuanian office, for the opportunity to implement ideas and projects what would be difficult to do without attracting additional resources and funds. Unfortunately, this is a common problem for many mass media in the Baltic states, Baltic countries that operate on a commercial basis, but not only, of course. We all face routine things in our work, but I think it is necessary and important for every media to go beyond limits, because the exclusive practices make it possible to find new audiences, new journalists, strengthen the credibility of the media and the authority of the editorial office. And this is very important, especially now when the authority of traditional mass media is falling during a pandemic. When we decided to submit the first application, we understand several things. We had the website, news, articles, the reports, photo and video materials. The audience at that time was about 300,000, 400,000 per month. And the question was, what don't we have? What do we want? How to use the available resources and competencies in different areas competently and correctly. How to get closer to the local audience through a local theme, and at the same time make the product interesting for a foreign audience. This is how our 3-year journey across modern Lithuania began. In its distant and recent past, numerous meetings with people in various places, from a tractor in a village garden to an abandoned restaurant where bandits from 19th met, or on the Klaipėda-Vilnius trade. This journey started near the border with Belarus, southeastern Lithuania, where local population has mixed identity. Lithuanian citizens with Polish roots, usually speaking mixed Polish, Russian, and Belarusian languages. Historically, they are called tuteishi, meaning locals. In our documentaries, in a positive and attractive way, we decided to reflect tuteishi culture and their pronounced integration into a border picture of Lithuania. All 5 stories, movies and articles with photo produced strive to overcome exciting stereotypes and to demonstrate potential and strongest features of this region and its people. I will not tell about every story, but I would like to say a few words about the most successful and interesting, in my opinion. The story has a mystery, detective, investigation moments, movement, and of course, people with very emotions. And now I will show you a first episode. The language doesn't exist.
Александр Адамкович – охотник за языками. Ученый-лингвист мотается по литовским.
Scientific linguist is traveling around villages collecting the data of the language. It's one of the dialects of Belarusian language, which is a basis for modern Belarusian language. In Norwegian village close to Shumsk, a camera is an excuse to start speaking Russian.
Language or dialect of Tuteishi. People is the most important features which defines this multidimensional ethnic group. This unique linguistic phenomenon almost never seeps through into the mass media, but we did it. We found the language hunter, the linguist Alexander, who became our guide. The fact is that the locals use this language as a marker and speak it only among their own people. If you ask them to speak with you in the Tuteishi language, can we now a bit louder?
Бодайте гусі, так марне пропали, як ми любилися, тепер перестали.
Thank you. This is original voices of Tuteishi language. And if you ask them to speak with you in the Tuteishi language, they will simply communicate with you in the language in which you spoke to them. Russian, Polish, Belarusian, or Lithuanian sometimes. They will understand that you are not local. And the aim of this video was to encourage the residents of southeastern Lithuania to use the Tuteishi dialect openly and with pride, in spite of the fact that it was stigmatized for almost 200 years as the language of lower class. Various language experts featured in this journalistic investigation have different opinions on the origins and role of Tuteishi mother tongue. However, all of them agree and on one thing. It is certainly a treasure of Lithuanian multiculturalism, which has to be preserved and respected. Boosting self-respect of Tuteishi and respect from other nationalities towards them was the main goal of this project, and it was certainly achieved through the right emotional triggers, storytelling, and targeted dissemination of published materials. Other than that, the only surprise that one might find in those videos is a much wider scope of topics, personalities, and insights compared to the initial draft on this ethno-cultural journey. After showing the linguistic and ethnic characteristics of the people in Lithuania, we decided that it is time to change direction to that period of Lithuanian history, which on the post-Soviet space are called the 90s. We are from 90s. It was our next multimedia project, the Baltic Media Grant Program. These 6 short videos and text stories are about people who faced dashing 90s, about their dreams and expectations, about people who came into the crazy freedom without any experience on how to live there, and about place where they are now, their life and nowadays Lithuania, their values and their reality. I will not hide that this story means a lot to me personally, because in that time I was a growing up teenager with eyes wide open. Dashing 19s was a epoch that touched and affected each and every family in Lithuania, our Baltic countries, and each post-Soviet state, despite of nationality, ethnicity, gender, or social class. This is the topic that unites people, all people in the region. And now you will see the second video.
В игре «Государство против криминала» ничья не предполагала.
A state against organized crime. There were over 100 organized crimes groups, armed groups in the beginning of the 90s. They were actually a criminal army. About 30-40 cars would be stolen every day and several people would be killed, with money extraction being the main crime. There were mass searches at the same time being conducted in different cities. TV guys from the 90s, they were the gods. Talk shows, advertising, soap operas, something that emerged at that time. And new conditions applied. Every new country had to have a humor show, a Muppet show, a quiz test, and a financial pyramid. It's not an agent, but someone called Roland.
Только советской. В 1992 он запустил передачу «Видеокаукас», то есть «Видеогном».
This project is about Lithuania's democratic transition from planned to market economy, change of values, establishment of independent armed forces, independent currency, litas, etc. And in this project, we also tried to debunk myths about 90s and failed democratic reforms in Lithuania, show real facts, sarcastically look on absurd life in dashing 90s. Stories from dashing 90s attracted and united different audience groups. Those who lived in those times, those who got their start in those times, those who remember those times only from parents' tellings and are curious in going deeper into these stories. Dashing 90s is also a uniting topic for different ethnic groups because all people, despite of their native language, faced the same problems on the time. The most popular were the series about crime and about the army, and the video about symbols of that era. More than 1,800,000 views on Facebook and more than 200,000 on YouTube. This project became the most popular and in total attracted almost 2 million users if we summarize the data for all our platform, website, YouTube and Facebook. But of course, it was really hard work. Almost 2 years have passed since then, but the users from different countries continue to view the film on social networks. How to find out how people live in different regions in Lithuania? You need to buy a train ticket and go on a trip across the country, up and down. We did this in our third project with Baltic Media Grant Program. It's called the Companions. train goes through the whole country: Visaginas, Pabradė, Vilnius, Kaišiadorys, Kėdainiai, Šiauliai, Plungė, Klaipėda, other towns. Journalists talks about to passengers in the train about their everyday life. The goal of their trip, and through his unexpected conversation, discovered that our passengers' views on social, economic, and political aspects of their life. That do they think about the actualities of national minorities in Lithuania also. And now you will see the second video.
Panevėžys мы едем, потому что ты, собственно, там и живешь. Ты не коренной житель.
We're driving to Panevėžys because this is where you live. Tell us how you ended up here in Panevėžys and in Lithuania. Well, Lithuania is an EU country, and I wanted to leave Russia. I wanted to live in Europe, and I lived with this idea for many years. So many people left for Europe. I don't know where this love comes from. I just have it in my heart. I traveled to Šiauliai, to Vilnius, to Klaipėda, Biržai. But Panevėžys is something that I really love. It's my city. Everything is close. Local people are laughing at me. They say that everything is on the way. Today I woke up at 4:30. I live very close to the station.
Thank you. The format of small talks in the train raises nostalgic and even romantic feeling of long trips by trains, and at the same time makes people closer to each other. These are video fragments about conductor Victoria and a migrant from Russia who wanted to move to Lithuania. He did it several years ago and settled not in the capital, in Vilnius, where everyone wants to move, but in a provincial city, Panevėžys. Of course, in our time, people are more likely to communicate with smartphones. But despite this, we decided on this social experiment. And you know, if you put your phone aside, you can learn a lot of new and interesting things about your neighbor in the train. Where he studied, where he works, where he likes to live, what is he reading, what has changed in the country. Simple things in simple words. And here's the story of human life through which we can see the problems and achievements of our country also. We presented 6 media stories told by train passengers traveling between district regions of Lithuania. Each talk presented to the audience as a multimedia story, text with photos and video inserts. Unfortunately, in this case, the quarantine created some problems. The main problem, we need to wear masks. Not everyone has such expressive eyes as the conductor Victoria. And finally, currently the site Delphi, Ru Delphi, monthly audience reached 1 million active users. I am sure that this became possible thanks to the high quality and original content that we could do with the support of Baltic Media Grant Program. And this also proves that such content is needed by the audience. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Oleg, for your very extensive presentation. And I think since it was very, very exciting and very long, so I think we will have to go to another presenter. But I have to say I will come back and actually watch some of those films, especially about the videos and about quickly and all of that. So thank you so much, Oleg, and speak to you soon. Thank you. Ačiū. Okay. So our next presenter is, we're going to Latvia, and she's Ina Plavoka. She's editor-in-chief of chaika.lv. And Ina, who has worked on several media projects, will present the challenges of her work, working with audience, the searching for quality content. Okay, Ina. I will switch to Russian because presentation is going to be in Russian. Labdien, Ина, Latvian. Здравствуйте, Ина. Вы меня слышите?
Здравствуйте.
Hello, Ina. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. I hear you very well. Thank you, Ina, very much for joining us today. And we are excited to hear your presentation, therefore. Hello, I'm Ina Plavoka. I'm editor-in-chief of a portal from Daugavpils, Latvia. It's called chaika.lv. This is the edition in the Russian language. We were established in 2018. We thought initially about the quality-wise independent portal. So for us it was very important to get the support indeed, because as you are starting everything from the scratch, it's obvious that there are many issues and challenges. It's also difficult to survive financially. Therefore, I would like to express my gratitude, and I indeed was very excited to accept both support and invitation to talk during this conference, also presenting what we achieved within the period of this grant. What are our results? We had two projects implemented during this time, first of which was taking place for the entire year, and within this project we did 292 content units, which enabled us to, first of all, solve some issues and challenges while preparing this content. Also, this volume enabled us, during the difficult time of the pandemics, during the first wave, enabled to present to our audience very quality content. Because we could talk a lot and a very long time for uncertainties, for something that we missed in the way of incomes from advertising during this first wave of COVID. So this support enabled us to survive. So let me go to the first project that was subdivided into certain topics. We also established some goals for secure the successful development of our portal, and we initially thought to attract the young people, young audience. Therefore, we envisaged the content that could attract attention of young people. I would now like to show you one of our videos and articles. The concept went about stories, success stories to be more exact, among young people from Daugavpils and Latgale region atoll. Within the framework of the series of the articles and videos, we started to develop some topics. I think that was the first discussion of Chaika.lv with our audience, about people who live close to us, who have very many stereotypes, a way of thinking, and some established cliches. After this story, it was the continuation on the same topic, but that was the first dialogue on our Chaika platform on this topic. More than 20 stories about young people, about successes of young people, And except for important topics that we raised, we somehow wanted to be proud of being a resident of your region, of your town or city, and that was one of the groups, one of the topics for our project. A second direction that we chose, I will stop the video at the moment because I unfortunately don't have a very good quality of internet, for which I apologize. That was the series of publications in Instagram and other social media. Portrait on Instagram included photos and video materials. They were also published on Facebook, and here we tried to discuss with our audience about some serious topics, about some serious issues. As a part of this topic, of this section, was discussion with residents of Daugavpils on what they know about the situation in the neighboring Belarus. We know that in this Russian-speaking part of Latgale, our region, that was the first dialogue on the situation in Belarus, whereby in this section of our portal we tried to explain to our audience what's going on in the neighboring country. One more task that we wanted to implement during this project. Historically, our audience were mostly consisting of women. We also wanted to attract male audience to our site, so in this framework we started to discuss sport topics, or something that was related to sports, to speak about some sport competitions, international competitions that were taking place in our region. We were also explaining to our audience about the situation related to the Olympic Games, and also something that was linked with Olympic Games and our neighboring country. One more topic were about the mission of the tiny regional media that have to assist the residents of their regions to solve some problems that exist on their, I don't know, town or regional level. And this is about the queues for children dental services. The situation was unacceptable in Daugavpils, where you had to wait for dental services for a long queue for an appointment. Of course, we didn't solve this problem during this short period of time, but we also attracted attention of our municipal authorities. So some grants to students were assigned, the ones who will be dental doctors in the future, and we are closely monitoring the solution in this situation. So that was about queues for dental services, especially for children. And this is about some solutions on how local media could solve some problems that are peculiar to their town or region. One more example of our project activities was called Chaika Provides Reply to Something. And I am indeed very happy that within the framework of this project we started a new section, and within 1 year we developed this section. And now in Daugavpils almost every day we receive requests from our citizens to solve some issue or assist to I don't know, resolve some challenge and so on. And perhaps it's a tiny issue within the framework of the entire country or region, but that was very important for local residents. So almost every day we do some overview, which perhaps is not very scaled up, but it is very important to our specific residents. Our people approached with the problem that for several years after the renovation of this particular street, there were no cycling route And it was also very specifically linked with safety and security of the citizens, especially because on one side of the city there was some route for bicycles, and on the other side of the city it was somehow forgotten in inverted commas. And within just several days after this publication, on this particular section of the road, everything was nicely painted, and this route for cyclists was somehow established. So that was the way to show for our readers that we work for them, that we are ready to assist them, that we are ready to assist in solving some issues. And here I'd like to also give you one more example. Not long ago, during one of the conferences, we were discussing on how important it is for local and regional media to develop and what it is necessary for, what's the topic all about. I think that national, large Republican media will never engage in such kind of stories, in such kind of issues. On the other hand, our local media are close to our residents. We also speak about the trustworthiness of our media. The poll that was done by our partners in Daugavpils showed that respondents to this poll start to trust us. So if several years ago people mentioned they don't trust any media, so now, according to this poll, our readers said that they trust Chaika.lv. And thanks to these initiatives and publications, thanks to such kind of support to our readers and to us, is the very good way forward. The second project I'd like to show to you is about a different topic. It's inspirational topic. Here we elaborated our storytelling habits. We also did multimedia stories because each of these stories is kind of creative. It also is supported by video materials, and here we also learned to do audio versions of the same materials. Initially, this project was planned as international project. We wanted to create some inspiring stories that would break stereotypes and would be ice-breaking in some ideas, doing this breakthrough about young people who lived in Riga for some time, then came back to Kraslava, the local village, in order to successfully support and develop his business. In this small Latgalia, not everything is bad as people overall think. There are also possibilities to develop, and they are success stories. We also did photo shots, we recorded video and audio. I will not play it, but I'd like to just emphasize that there are video and audio materials. The stories will be continued in Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia, although lockdown and pandemics introduced the respective restrictions to move to neighboring countries. Therefore, we've decided that all the stories will be created in Latvia, at least at the moment. I would like to also show you the story about our neighboring Lithuania. This is a story that was very popular about this girl, Milana Mozeiko, who comes from Visaginas to Daugavpils. For practicing. She's ice skater, and she is thinking about Olympic Games and also championships. So this is for her a way to proceed, because there are no facilities in Visaginas, and this way to us it was the opportunity to, well, show this story, to tell our readers about this girl, and also expand our capacities beyond Latvia, something that we've planned during this project. So that's what I wanted to mention you during this short time planned for me about Chaika.lv with support of this funding from Media Grant Program. The projects provided us the opportunity to learn, to develop, because I'd like to once again mention that we are at the beginning of our journey and just to survive. During this difficult time for Chaika LV, it wouldn't have been possible to survive without this specific project. Once again, thank you very much, Inna, for your insights and for your presentation. As we are very limited in time, there will be no Q&A at the moment. But it was indeed very interesting to see your experience and this good example of local media about the way they work, they live, and also to hear that the projects are very helpful to local citizens. So thank you for what you are doing, and see you next time. Paldies.
Okay, so we're going to Estonia, and we're going to be speaking to Yana Butkovskaya, who is a producer from Ida-Viru Creative Industry Center. Yana is a freelance TV producer and will present her TV show for children about technology, which is now in its 4th year of making. So let's talk about Technolic 3.0.
Hello, dear audience. I'm really happy to be here, and let's talk about the technology. I know that I'm a little bit, I would say, outstanding, but it doesn't mean any kind of ambitious, but it's just a little bit another way of how I see the world and my team sees the world. And we thought that it's really important to share the knowledge about the technology. My name is Yana. And let me introduce you my story about how I was developed during the making media product. As already has been mentioned, I started this project, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2017 or 2016, when ETV Plus just was to emerge on Estonian media sphere. So, and it was the first media hackathon created and run by Darya Saar, where I just came as a friend of Darya to support her. But when I was traveling to this hackathon, I was just thinking about my son, who at that time was 8 years old. And, you know, as all the parents today, I was struggling about how to limit his being in mobile phone. And I was just thinking about, okay, do these guys who are playing constantly and permanently in their phones, do they understand what kind of technology they are holding in their hands? And because by my education I'm a physics, so I decided that maybe this is the time to talk about technology and to cover some other critical points while doing this. So the first, what I was thinking about is the fear of unknown. And we all know this even today when we talk about the COVID, when we talk about some big international issues, that there is a huge gap between those ones who are using technology and do understand it, and those ones who are just fear about it. And for example, in Estonia, we were really lacking of how we can approach and how we can deliver the messages to the elderly people when they do not use Facebook or Instagram or those like channels which we think that it's very, very common and very easy to use. So, and of course, for the kids and for the youngsters also, the fear of unknown is one of the biggest what we wanted to overcome with our TV show. And of course, like when there is new technology, new ideas, new innovation emerge on the market, then how we tackle with this, how we analyze it, and how we make us understand this, where we look for the information, how we understand, for example, how 5G is, I don't know, like spreading over the air, and has it any kind of harmful influence on people or not. So all these kind of questions, they are appearing absolutely every day in every different communities. And of course, which is for me, as being physics and running a startup fund, is a little bit like always not very good that we are growing in the world of users. We do understand how to make some kind of really, in my mind, minor adoptions, but we're really lacking of breakthrough innovations today. Because as you might know, the old technology, what we use today, was already invented 40 and 30 and 50 years ago. We just now started to use it. And we really need to push forward this new wave of innovation. That's why this TV show, to explain the real technology in a simple and very attractive way, has been started. This is how we were approaching the third year or third season of Technolic. So we were always experimenting. We were always trying to adopt the format and to get the feedback and to analyze how kids are looking at it and what kind of feeling do they have. Is it interesting or not? And speaking the truth, it was my absolute first project to be as a producer, and the second season was the weakest. I even do not suggest you to look at it. And it's really not an advertisement. So, and this is the third one where we already were we were happy to get the grant from Nordic Media, and we were working very, very closely with ETV Plus and the guys, a lot of the guys who has also experienced to work with ETV Plus. So I hired them, and we have created this third season. So this is just a teaser.
Образовательно-развлекательная передача о современных технологиях. Технолик. Новости из мира современных технологий.
Technolic's news from the world of modern technologies, and meeting people who are ready to be inventors and who think in non-standard forms.
So the idea was, to find always somebody, not to be like two person, like not to be only one speaking head in the screen, but also somebody with whom kids could relate themselves. But even when we came out with this season, we started again think about like how we can spread this knowledge and how we can really assess, do the guys really understand what we are talking about and how they can be more engaged. And for example, the third season was done in cooperation with one of our really, like I would say, the best Estonian technology summer camp, Hyppelaut, is a springboard, I suppose, which is run by Estonia 2.0 and our main startuppers. So the guys from all over Estonia come together for summer camp, and during the 1 week they are creating and really building up the prototypes of their ideas. So we were working closely with them just to show what kind of technology is really possible to make and to use already today when you are just a schooler. But then we also were thinking about how to ensure the innovation and how to not only put people and kids again just to watch the YouTube or to watch TV or whatever channel we can name here, but really to be by themselves engaged in the process. Because what we really thought is our mission is to shape the new generation of people who are aware of technology, who are aware of international cooperation and cooperation to achieve some kind of bigger goal, because all the innovations and inventions cannot be done if you are all alone in the forest. So when we have been done the first season, we organized the Day of Inventors. So, and we have been like, there were 250 kids running and building up all the stuff. And so this was me with another type of hairs. And by doing all this, we came up with a new brand, which really has been born from Technolic, and we called it Tech Heroes. And we decided that beside the TV show, there should be on-site and online workshops and events about the technology. So, for example, in 2019, we have had a very big media and technology summer camp in Narva. So we have been doing them a lot, but this picture from Narva, guys also has been doing the animation and everything. So, and by this, we try to foster the creativity and create a global community, because the Tech Heroes project is already, and platform is already done in cooperation with guys from Japan. And we thought that if guys can enjoy the learning, and we could even put them to learn from each other. And then we created the Technolic 4.0.
Алло, Алекс. Привет, Алекс. Очень большой привет, меня зовут Витя, и это мой блог Технолик. Здесь я рассказываю о самых интересных и новых вещах, произведенных в истории.
Чтобы разбираться в чем-то, надо поставить крутую видеокарту.
А также улучшаю вещи, которые лежат у меня дома. Ну, почему-то не работает. Придется опять Алексу звонить.
So this time we decided to create the story about the guy who is making his vlog. So the show is how the smaller guy, this one in red t-shirt, is making his video blog for YouTube about how he invents something or repairs something. And then he has Alex, his older brother, who helps him and like calls him and bring him to different places like Bolt, and we have been to World Rally Championship, the main workshop here in Estonia, where they are preparing the cars for Ott Tänak and some other very cool rally drivers. And we have been, for example, we have been fellow in SolarRide development. This is the first Estonian electrical car on with solar panels. They have built a new car just from the scratch to go to Australia to participate in this solar car competition. And so I'm really happy that Technolic, is really like on the place with the main technological innovations in Estonia. And what we have just accomplished, like recently, we have a little bit adopted our TV shows and just put them on the YouTube. And the YouTube videos are connected with interactive game, so you can go and check if you answer correctly. So you can see the video, and you felt like there's instructions how to go to our website and what kind of, there are some questions and you should put the right answers, and then you will win the prizes. So this is how we were always continuously changing the format. We were always continuously changing even the channels and how we communicate with our audience. And I'm really looking forward to what we can do in 5.0 season. And this is all from me.
Wow, Jana, thank you so much from Estonia, and you're really fulfilling the image building of Estonia as a technologically very, very advanced country. And unfortunately, we are very, very short of time. And I just want to say thank you so much, and good luck with Technolic 05.
Exactly.
Yeah. So once again, thank you, and we will be looking forward to your new productions. Thank you, and bye-bye. Okay, so we are coming to session number 2, which is called The Media and the Audience, Polarization and Diversity. We have 2 presenters who are going to be talking about their own experiences in media worlds, and we will start. So the first keynote speaker is Mr. Rolandas Barisas. He's editor-in-chief of business newspaper. The business newspaper is called Verslo Žinios. The presentation is about Verslo Žinios transformation case, because Verslo Žinios is one of the most innovative, I would say, media outlet in Lithuania, and you will see why I said so. So presentation is called One Size Doesn't Fit All.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Tere, labdien, labas rytas. My name is Rolandas Barisas. I'm the editor-in-chief of Lithuanian business daily Verslo Žinios. Just briefly to introduce our media, it belongs to the Swedish biggest media group, Bonnier Group, and we are on the market from 1995. So I would like to introduce you briefly a short story. I think it's a short story of transformation which we went through during the financial crisis. And I think the story is interesting, should be from the perspective that it's a small media. Verslo Žinios business paper is a small media. It's a niche media. It has similarities with your job you're doing with your minorities audiences. Being a small media company, it's always a challenge. You know better than me, and you always find some place on this earth and find some peculiarities which can build an audience around it. So I can tell you a story and move to our slides. Briefly, we were the newspaper in 1995, but in 1998 it was the first media website built in Lithuania. Somebody think that it's Delphi or somebody else, but if we take media in Lithuania, it was Verslo Žinios or vz.lt. In 2002, it was Bubble, and it slowed very much our business development. To say the truth, we always were on the digital platform. We were only opened to our subscribers. We never were had free access to our content, and everybody were teasing us. And when Facebook and Google were very aggressively moving in the market, everybody were telling us, "Open your content and you will get money." Yes, we opened our content. Just in 2008, just few months or few years left to the financial crisis. It was a big mistake, I should admit, and we never got more readers, but we lost our biggest value, content. And we remember this financial crisis very clearly, all of us, I mean journalists and publishers, because we lost nearly everything. We were on the brink of bankruptcy, and we had to optimize our activities, and we cut the staff 30%, and we cut the salaries up to 30%, and we did not know what is waiting us ahead of us. Thanks God, we were predicting that financial crisis is coming, and we built. We had a year before, and we were already optimizing our businesses. And 2008 it was the year when we had biggest profit ever in our history. So we put all this money into our company, and you already see on the screen that our government helped us to. It seems that politicians wanted us to die, I mean, us journalists, because they increased value-added tax and other taxes. So we had a very tough time. And we one day sit down, it was probably 2012, and we started discussing with reporters, with my journalists, what we're doing, what is our future. And I think this decisive question always coming to your mind when you're working with your audiences, because commercially, and I admit that it's not easy job for you. And exactly the same situation we faced in approximately 2012. And the most interesting that we suddenly, I was asking journalists what we're doing, and somebody was saying, we're publishing newspaper, we have website, and finally somebody said, no, we produce content. Yes. It's bingo. We produce content. And this is the starting point for real transformation. If we're producing content, so the next my question was to my reporters, what kind of content we can sell? Because we wanted to return back our powers, and to return back our powers, we need to get money for what we are producing. And when we started our discussions what content should be, we found out that it should be not news, it should be something else, something with a value added inside of it. And I think it's very important for your businesses as well to sit down and to discuss with in your groups what is our content should be, that our readers, our so-called local minorities can take it as the main media source for their information. So we no longer depend on print. It was 2017, and the most interesting that when we decided what content should be, we transformed our newsroom, and we were all concentrating on the value-added content. And suddenly we switched. It was 2014, I think, when we introduced the metered paywall to our readers, and we were so happy when we noticed that the premium content which we are producing for several years already had its readers, and our subscribers found out that this value-added content is much more valuable for them than news, and they started paying us. So today we were the first media which had subscriptions, paid subscriptions. This is just not to how to say. Simply to say the truth, it's the very big part today of our income, a very big part. And today, the media part of our company totally rely on the subscription income. So we feel financially more firm, stronger, and that helps to create a fantastic mood inside the company, and to feel journalists very strong and ready for other things to do for their readers. So if we move further, there's the slide which we later will look through. I believe that the organizers of the conference will deliver those slides. You will see that we were much more focused on subscription price is something what is content value plus it's a content value business. So think from that point of view, and if you will build the list of the most engaging content, the most valuable content to your readers, I think you will really have, you will build a very strong readership around your content. So one more interesting point, I will try to be very short, but we built a new motivation system to reporters. I think digital transformation brought us a very valuable tool. We can meter our activities not only daily, not only weekly, daily, but on the minutes basis. So that helps us very quickly to grab or to understand what the readers like and what they don't like, what aims we achieve or we not achieve. And according to this metering data, we built all incentives to reporters. First of all, we cut our market into small pieces. I mean, you should make very clearly who are your readers. It's a senior readers, it's a middle-aged readers, it's youngsters, or it's a mixture. Based on that, it can how to say, put you some ideas what kind of content you should produce to your audiences. And as I mentioned, we from very beginning said that it will be so-called Apple model. 70% of the content should be premium. That means with the value-added content, and 30% it should comprise of the just news flow, which we get mainly from the news agencies and other sources. So, and I mentioned about the system empowering every employee to live for next manner. This is the example of how we segmentized our market. It's about business market. Yes, we just decided we called hippopotamus the biggest companies, gazelles the fastest growing companies, rabbits small companies up to $500,000 income, and insects. So we, being a small company, just to say, Verslo žinios has 35 editorial department employees, so we had to focus on something. We cannot cover everything, and we have no capacity for that. So that means we just picked up a certain group of our business community and focused on them. First of all, of course, hippopotamus, gazelles are on our top list, and rabbit and insects is something extra if we have additional resources. So to my mind, segmentation of the market, even talking about your audience, is very important, because it will help you to better focus your content you're producing. One more thing, digital developments allow us to get real-time data. I already mentioned that we now measure the readership every second, every minute, and it's important not only for management of the company, but I think it's most and more important to reporters, because they very clearly see what's wrong with their article, why it's not read. They noticed that maybe it's headline, maybe it's lead, maybe it's content, maybe it's misses some invaluable parts. So during the day we can have a possibility to update the content in the way which engage the readers. And we understanding that having 35 editorial people, it's not enough to cover the whole businesses in Lithuania, in Baltic countries, and in the world. So we had to segmentize the topics. So do we cover everything? Do we have enough resources to cover everything? This question should be raised all the time. And for example, we in Verslo žinios decided that we cannot cover the whole range of the topics, and we narrowed it to 10 main topics, which covers the interest of 80% of our readers. That helped us a little bit to free resources and to target them to those 10 topics. And we had a play. Work should bring a lot of pleasure, and we decided that there are some features which makes one story is different from another, and we call them bombs. Bombs, it's certain amount of clicks or reads, open pages, and we all the time measure those bombs during the week. And the best bombers always get some rewards. It not necessarily should be money. It can be a nice small party for 5-10 minutes break, coffee with some cake and something like that. That makes a fantastic atmosphere. And bombs helps us editors, to teach other reporters what works in this world, what kind of content works in this world, what kind of topics and what kind of leads. So then I would like to say that we started measuring the readership of it. We built around it another product which made a very different life for reporters. We measuring how many page views and some other statistics they're getting during the year, during the month. And each reporter has targets, and if they reach target, they get sent extra payments. And if they exceed those targets, they get even more payments. So in principle, this kind of system allows reporters to get unlimited salary or double the salary. It's good for company. It's good for reporters. It means if we get more readers, if we get more engaged readers, it means we're getting more money. We're earning more money. So those money should be shared between the employees very equally. So this is an example of our scoreboard. Don't take attention, it's figures. Green is sending the message that you overcoming the targets. Red is you behind. So I think we can learn, and it helps to learn from each other. Then colleagues go to each other and ask what you did that you had so big readership, and they teaching each other. So imperatives of the time. So I like this picture very much, and I remember my time. We had no computers, and today these small kids already in computers. So digital is it's our imperative, and to my mind is most important thing, talking from journalistic perspective, is the content should be original. If you can be copied, if you copy something, it's a copy. Copy, you will never sell, you will never attract attention of your readers. Something exclusiveness in the content or value added in the content, it's the only means to build around the readership. Without readers, with nothing. Without readers, the journalists not exist. Without readers, editorial departments not exist. So I think content should be original. I always say, leave news for news agencies. It's their bread, and they produce it for us. They're working for us. It's cost us very small money in comparison how much we release resources to the content, to original content. So it should be focused. Focused, I mean, you should always think what readers would like to know, what kind of topics on their mind. It should be reliable. Nowadays, reliable word gets different or increased importance, because reliable is not necessarily what we see today in the market. So if you're reliable, they will come back to you all the time to check. Even if they are reading other sources, they will come to you to check facts, to check the news, to check other things. So in-depth analyzing, it's always additional things for which readers returning back to you. So adding value, it's our buzzword in the company. If you have some just ordinary news, I don't know. So some immigrants coming to the country. If the story is about that, what kind of added value you can bring to that? What you can build around that and give it to our readers to explain, to provide arguments, to provide facts and give perspectives. So I think being a small company, we learned one more thing. It's very important to increase somehow capacity of the editorial workforce. Having limited number of reporters, it's always a big challenge to editors. You know that better than me, and it builds a very stressful environment. And usually reporters who are overcrowded with work, they are burnt out, and then we losing them. You know better than me, again, I will repeat it, better than me, how it's difficult today to get reporters, especially in the national languages. So we need to do something more efficiently. To my mind, what comes and what we are doing actually in our media, so we're building networks. We're co-sharing the content. We're doing that with our Estonian friends, we're doing that with our Scandinavian friends, and this is, I think it's very important. You now working work for this project from different countries. You know now better each other than ever before. So talk and find projects or content you can share. You are not competitors in your local market. So in your international markets, so you can very easily share what you produce in different countries and what we are doing actually on our platform. And so partnerships and co-sharing products, I think it's one of the things which can reduce the cost and will increase the assortment of the content which readers usually like. And efficiency of production, take away all unnecessary activities which can only suck from you all resources. So look and look and look. We do it every year. What is not efficiently, what is time to change, we are changing because we have no extra money for to waste for production. I don't know how much money time have to continue, but I see the up, so I have time. So Talking about again content, what our case always say that we segmentize, already mentioned, that look at the segments, systemize, track, customize, and make loyal readers. So focus on audience. Digital, it's a lot of tools, free tools, which helps us to measure our readership, or in other words, it gives us possibility to get into the minds or to move into the houses or flats of our readers and to talk to them more closely. It's not necessarily verbal communication, but digital communication gives the same amount, even sometimes more knowledge about the readers, that we can even imagine. Content diversity and specialization versus the specialization. So it's always a danger that being super specialized, you can lose your readers. I have the same headache all the time on my mind, and don't be afraid to, in some cases, to experiment. Try once, go one way, go another way, and you will very quickly, how to say, make your target. You can feel how much your readers want, and where they want just to know, and where they want to know, how we say what's happening, and the rest analysis say why it's happening. So you can have the more time to focus on why, to explaining things, because I have the feeling that your audience much more needs sometimes to understand why and how than to knowing what's happening. So we're producing a lot of customized, knowing our audiences, as I mentioned, segmentized by my audience. We're always sending them different customized alerts or newsletters. Newsletters, in their essence, is a good tool just to cut the distance between your readers. When they get newsletter, they feel editors and reporters like their family members. And if they trust you, they will let you in, and they would like to get your newsletters more and more often. This is the door gate, or it's a gate to your content. And to my mind, you should very carefully look into newsletters. We exploit newsletters very actively. There are so many of them and so different, dependable on the segmentized audience. Don't be afraid of alerts. If they are useful, not just a bubble, not just empty words, readers usually thanks for them because they get something valuable, and they know it's immediately because they use mobile phones usually, or computers, and sometimes there was a discussion that it's a dangerous. Yes, it's a dangerous, not to overexploit, but if that has a content behind it, it goes quite well. Knowing you and me, we have limited resources. We are not Rockefellers, we are not big media, international medias, so we need to standardize our production. So look around more and more every time, make an audit. What is unuseful, unnecessary production teams? For example, we produce news. We produce out of the news. We produce analysis. From analysis, we produce podcast. From podcast, we produce news. We produce from podcast, vice versa. I mean, in different directions. Always look what you can chop, what you can cut, and what you can, adding some extra value, you can send to different interest groups. Some focuses comes when you discuss and a little bit analyze what is the discuss what rubrics and topics you would like to have. To my mind, just having in mind your content, I would recommend you to have a look into, for example, Guardian newspaper, United Kingdom. I think it's a quite good media company working with very broad readership and very different readers, and they usually know what is the social news should be, and that they're very engaging their readers, because they live on their not subscriptions but on their donations. So I think it's very interesting, one of the interesting examples which can be somehow modified and used in your daily work. Opinions. I don't know when it happened, but today we're very, how to say, used to have 1-2 opinions. Yes, and sometimes there are 2 or 3 well-known opinion leaders, and we somehow all the time quote them. Especially when I looked at the social networks, and to my mind, it's a big problem. A big problem that we move to a big bubbles, small or big bubbles, it doesn't matter, of our friends, and we are discussing around practically the same topics. Because we build those bubbles, or we're entering the bubbles where we feel comfortable. We feel comfortable with our friends. So what happens beyond the bubbles, we don't know what's happening, and we becoming more and more, how to say, misunderstanding what's happening around us. To my mind, today is imperative, and I had discussions with my reporters. It's very important to increase the pages, number of pages, to increase number of opinions on, or let it be website or it's a print, because opinions builds, first of all, people are very, how to say, thankful for getting different perspective. Because there's no one truth on this earth, and to my mind, it's very when readers get different opinions on the same events, on the same topics, they are much more comfortable of making their own decision, and this decision much more focused, much more based on the different opinions and on facts than on somebody's thinkings and misleadings. So to my mind, in this very polarized society today we are facing, it's very important for media companies to increase the opinions, and they should be not only those who think similar, but on the opposite, just give very opposite opinions. And readers, by the way, readers like very much different opinions, so they are engaged, and they are coming back to look for those opinions. So we can do that. It's very, very powerful tool. And use and reuse, and I already mentioned that if you can take agency news, use them for news, and you can focus on some content which you can put some extra value. Personalized, I already mentioned, and to my mind, it's very important always to think what should be made differently in the organization. Every year we make I call it audit of our organization, but of our workflow, of our investments, and I surprised that every year I find a lot of things to be repaired, to be changed, to be developed, and that makes next year much more comfortable to work reporters. Then I have one more slide which I took from Reuters research, what readers concern, biggest concern list, and when you see on that slide, they are most concerned when the facts are spun or twisted and to push particular agenda. So don't be the slaves of somebody. I think readers will never forgive you working on somebody's side. They trust reporters who are free, and then they take it as the real advisors, real friends, real close. They let you into their families. To my mind, it's very important because there are so many temptations to do somebody favor. For example, local authorities. They promise you money, they promise you some orders, they promise something else, but they always will come back to you and say, can you put this story? Can you write about that and that? I think we must have on mind that we must stand only on our readers' side. Stories are completely made up for political, commercial reasons, and this is really his biggest concern. Nowadays, it's very common to see that kind of content. If you go this way, you always will be, nobody will respect you, and nobody would like to work with you, and those orders will be gone as soon as the political shift will be after the elections. So to my mind, it's very low horizon perspective, and this is most important that readers that very clearly noticed. Sooner or later they will find out it and they will close the door for you forever. I think this is not our goal. And some other good things I see, I say good things, Facebook and other social networks going down, and to my mind it's good possibility for us journalists, and we must focus on our content. And okay, I'm moving further, and one example which I would like to show you from our history, Verslo žinios history, is reputation still matters. I always talking to my journalists and to everybody. People respect those who respect them. Reputation, one more time, media reputation is the money. Reputation is the door opener. And for example, this is a very interesting example which we were surprised at when in 2010 there was European Union leaders were invited to Russia and they were going for negotiations. On the eve, at that time, Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev, he invited 7 journalists from the 7 European countries, and one of them were a reporter from Verslo. He is sitting on the left with a hand near on his cheek. So I think have that in mind and resist any temptations you can be facing during the work. So original, always valuable. That's very important. So, and very brief Verslo success formula, which I proud of and which I very strongly believe. It's knowledge. This is what makes us interesting to our readers. Enthusiasm. This is what makes, again, what engages readers when they see enthusiastic reporters, journalists which understand what they're doing and they're doing with enthusiasm. You can. They would like to be. They would like to be somehow affiliated with these kind of people. Persistence. I think it's a very important feature. It's so many failures in our life, and we very quickly say, "Oh no, it's not happens." We should be persistent. If you believe and you trust in what you're doing, you should continue, and you will see one day that will be accepted by your readers. Transparency, reliability, quality, innovation. That's 4 very important things which builds media reputation to the media. This is our formula. This is what makes us successful for 26 years, and I think that helps us to survive through the tough times, during the crisis, and that attracts best journalists who they would like to work with us, and that will help very much. With good people, we can reach whatever you want. I wish you success, and I understand that I will have possibility to participate in your questions-answer session, and I will be happy to answer any questions you will put to me. Thank you for your attention.
Wow, thank you so much, Rolandas, and so many great ideas I heard for myself also as a media business owner. The next keynote speaker is Professor Auksė Balčytienė. She is from Kaunas Vytautas Magnus University, and she is a core founding person of the School of Media and Communications at the university. She is a member of the editorial board of European Journal of Communication, Central European Journal of Communication, Regional Studies, Media Transformations, and so on and so forth. She is also a member of the Lithuanian Broadcasting Council and the Lithuanian Science Council. Auksė will present an academic approach to a contemporary polarized audience. Her presentation is called Media Pluralism, Diversity, Polarization, and Inequalities in the Midst of Accelerating Platformization. I would like to remind you that straight after the presentation we will have a short questions and answer session. So, thank you.
Dear colleagues, thank you very much. It is a great pleasure for me to take part in this conference. As I already was introduced by my colleagues, my approach is an academic approach, so I will try to bring a more conceptual perspective on such ideas as media pluralism, diversity, polarization, and inequalities. And my primary focus will be on platformization. If we look forward, the starting point, of course, is the concept of media pluralism. So when we talk about media pluralism, we have to take into account diversity issues. And media pluralism is indeed a desirable state of democratically functioning society. Media pluralism as such is a complex concept. So it is a fluid, it's a liquid concept. And when we refer to media pluralism, sometimes we talk about media content, diversity of media content. But actually, we have to look much broader. We need to have a much broader perspective. When we talk about media pluralism, we have to take into account such issues as media ownership and control, media types and genres, political viewpoints reflected in media content, cultural expressions, local and regional interests. So this is not a single approach. It's a kind of multidisciplinary approach and multidisciplinary perspective that is used in media pluralism. If we look at media system transformations in the Baltic countries, we can say that our region is indeed a region that we can call a laboratory of media developments and media transformations. On the one hand, we can say that there are 3 parallel streams on developments. There is professionalization, and professionalization is conceived through deeper institutionalization of professionalism values. I think you just heard the presentation by Rolandas Borisas. I think he has been an excellent presenter in stressing this element of professionalism, of deeper professionalization of professionalism ideals. And among those ideals, we can say that there are investments in investigative journalism, fact-checking operations, and solidarity and supporting acts among journalists themselves. So we can say that professionalization is a process that actually is taking place in our societies. On the other hand, there is another trend that has taken place around the turn of the century. So that trend is called mediatization. It's not that optimistic trend, actually. It refers to the infusion of media logic in other societal subsystems. So we can talk about mediatization of politics, mediatization of education, mediatization of culture, and all other fields, which means that all these fields, like politics, it depends strongly on media, and politicians try to play around and they try to please media, to feed media with some political agendas that might be related not on what public needs, but it might be related on political influence, and that's a negative element, negative effect. And also nowadays we are talking about platformization, and platformization refers to penetration of infrastructures, economic processes, and governmental frameworks of different platforms. And those global platforms like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, they strongly reconstruct, they determine the business model of the media, and they challenge the media system altogether. So basically, we can say that in our societies, professionalization, mediatization, platformization are 3 factors that are bringing us to a situation that as a result of different multiple streams, we are finding ourselves in a disruptive public will formation situation. It takes place because of public sphere fragmentation in terms of disconnections from public debates. And the negative correlation is such that we see intensified use of media, but on the other hand, we see backsliding, declining trends on journalism. I have some examples from Lithuania, and we can see that in the past year alone, media use has tremendously increased. We see now 520 minutes. That's an average time that people use and devote to media per day. So it's almost 8-9 hours per day. So we see that we, to use the same concept of mediatization, we say that our everyday lives are mediatized. We spend so much time with media. We also see that internet use has tremendously increased. Also, we see that television and internet use are the 2 channels that their use is increasing continuously. So that's an endurance. Whereas with other channels like radio or press, there is a very obvious decline. So we can say that, yes, we are in a process of tremendous change and transformation in terms of what kind of channels, what kind of media do we use. And there we see that smartphone use to access information has tremendously increased again, and it overshadows the use of laptops, desktop computers, and so forth. So we are very mobile societies. And in that sense, we are not only somehow emblematic societies in the 3 Baltic countries, but these are tendencies that we can observe globally. And here again, the data for Lithuania, we see that Facebook, YouTube are the channels, the top used for information access. Another important note is that as a media channel, internet is much more important than television. And on the lower slide, you can see that social networks like Facebook, Twitter, are more significant or are becoming closer to the significance of online news portals. So in this context, we also see the decline of trust and reliance of Lithuanian population on news media channels, on television, radio, press, and also internet news channels. So what we see in this condition, where does that bring us to? Indeed, there is a double sense of public opinion formation disruptions. Disruptions, it means decline, erosion. So we are losing trust in news, and on the other hand, we are also losing consensus on core democratic values. And where we find ourselves in this disorganized media environment, many people simply do not know what to believe. And that creates conditions for exploitation. I will bring some results from Media Pluralism Monitor, which shows that on the one hand, news media companies, news media suffers because of the lack of economic and financial capacities, changes in advertising model, changes in production, attacks and hate speech against journalists. And actually, these tendencies are an obvious example of platformization effects. But on the other hand, social media, rather than encouraging productive debates, they amplify sensationalism, conspiracy theories, they radicalize and they polarize. But on the other hand, we say that it strongly depends on the logic of platforms themselves, where we have very little impact, very little influence into. So the most fundamental question nowadays that faces liberal democracies is whether the independent news media will survive and in what format. So what I mean independent news media channels like press, news portals, those news media channels that have news editor offices, they have employing journalists who observe events in our closest social surroundings, and they report on those events. So we see that people are turning to social media to fulfill their informational needs. The sector itself is undergoing major transformations, and resources to journalistic work, actually, they are diminishing. So what we have to ask in this context, in the sense of media pluralism ideal, then I mentioned that media pluralism is a state that we desire, that actually democratically functioning society deserves that. So we have to ask questions. Are we equally served? And how inequality and social polarization is reflected in our media? So my suggestion in this context is that indeed, what do we need? We need a socio-cultural turn in thinking about the media environments, about contemporary media environments. Nowadays, actually, when we talk about even media policy, I mentioned already that media pluralism is not sort of single disciplinary perspective approaches requiring definition. Media pluralism is a kind of complex and fluid conception. So to talk about media pluralism, we have a possibility from two perspectives. On the one hand, we can talk about media pluralism from neoliberalist market-oriented perspective. And we can always talk about market diversity, market entry, competition elements. But on the other hand, there is also another perspective that I sense that in our societies is a bit silenced or not given an adequate attention to. And this perspective, I would call it sociocultural perspective, or Habermasian public sphere model that talks about diversity of ideas, that talks about value-based approaches into information provision. So now I will give you few slides and diagrams from the Media Pluralism Monitor. It is an instrument that is developed at the European University Institute in Florence, and it observes, it registers, it gives an index of risks to media plurality in different European societies and also in our societies. So it looks into fundamental protection, meaning that it observes what is the legal context, how freedom of expression is cherished in concrete context. It talks about market plurality. It talks about the culture of competition. It talks about the tendencies of media concentration, etc. It talks about political independence, so degree of political influence, media independence, and so forth. But it talks also about social inclusiveness. And within social inclusiveness, it observes the levels. So what is access to media for minorities? What is the strength of regional communities and regional media? What is the percentage of women in the media? What is the level of media literacy and protection against illegal and harmful speech? Here I added data for Lithuania, and these are degrees of risks. And we can say that 100% of risks is the top risk, but we can observe that tendencies are, well, warning. They are raising questions. So in the Baltic countries, NPM instrument registers decrease and stabilization of risks in the areas of fundamental protection and social inclusiveness. And I believe that's an important finding, significant finding for us when we talk about minority media, about the content that is fed and circulates in public arenas in the Baltic countries. But what is warning, that we observe that areas of market plurality and political influence, they remain of enduring significance in the sense of risk generation. And here we have a picture for Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. So Lithuanian perspective shows that in the same manner, actually, we can see and observe the same tendencies. If you look there, you see that market plurality in free countries, it has increased, meaning risks to market plurality. So increase means a very negative tendency. And, you know, it's very difficult to say that which situation in which country is better. We do not attempt to answer that question, but what we want to show that there is a great degree of uncertainty, a great degree of unclarity in how media market functions. So what we say informs in the context of platformization, but also in the context of local traditions, of local political parallelisms with media. We can observe that this is a risky tendency. On the other hand, this diagram, I think it is an illustrative of another tendency that is important to take into account, and that tendency refers to my idea explained a little bit earlier when I said that a socio-cultural turn in thinking about media plurality is necessary. Then we compare data on confidence in own ability to participate in politics. So this is a panel survey, and these are perceptions of people in our country. And we see a correlation with trust. On this upper side, we can see that most people can be trusted. So the correlation between my own confidence to participate in politics, to be engaged, to be active, to have an agency, an active agency to take responsibility and to act, it correlates in a negative sense with trust. And we can find Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia in this lower side of countries. Another country also, how satisfied with the way democracy works in our countries. And again, with the same trust indicator, we say that satisfaction, or actually not that high satisfaction with democracy, again correlates with low trust that is expressed in perceptions of people in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. We can explore those diagrams deeper, but actually the message that I want to transform here is that actually we need to work really hard on working on our own value orientations, on trust, but also we need to support the media system and media infrastructures to help us to build a bigger trust. So basically, I do not want to be too pessimistic, but I would like to stress that neither agency, neither infrastructure are of sufficient degree in our country. So we need to take into account messages, different means to support media functioning through different economic programs. But also we need a kind of to have a broader perspective. We need to have a whole of society approach and to sort of educate and to transfer the message that contemporary problems are way too complex to be approached from a single disciplinary perspective. And we shouldn't talk only about media literacy, which is a very core concept often applied by politicians, also by educators. We need to have a stronger infrastructure that would concentrate on public ideals, public value education. And this public infrastructure would include media, of course, academic institutions, museums, libraries. So we could also talk about the public epistemic infrastructure that is needed for contemporary societies to combat this decline or backsliding of democratic everyday life in Baltic countries. I stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those really exciting presentations. And without further ado, as it is said many times when people have to go faster, I will want to ask a few questions. I would like to ask a few questions. First of all, I would like to say that I'm a keen subscriber of Verslo žinios. I think that this is one of the best media in Lithuania, and I used to work actually for a few embassies in Lithuania, for British embassy, for Swedish embassy, and I used to do the media coverage. So I was press and public affairs officer. So we used to do our news briefing from Verslo žinios all the time. It was #1 media. So I'm so happy to have you in our panel, and also thank you so much for this great presentation, because we sometimes, the journalists, they think that they know everything about media, but we always need this academic approach also, and that was very helpful. So let's maybe start with, we have a few questions, and let's start from a person who calls himself anonymous, but they are very straightforward questions. And minority media feels that paid content would kill business in short term. So what strategy would secure income through digital transformation or paid models? So maybe I would ask, maybe I'll start from you, because you're closer to the business side.
Good question. It's not easy to answer. Frankly speaking, we all the way in our history we were thinking the same way. We all the time thought that digital subscription will kill our newspaper. The most interesting that today we still have the newspaper, and we have a bigger part of our readers, we still have digital subscribers. So in other way, I can put the question another way. So we are journalists, we are editors, and if nobody wants to pay for our content, so is it so valuable, or what we are producing then? I say, raise this question within your team and ask yourself, are we really producing something valuable for our readers? Believe me, if these things are valuable, there will be always readers who will pay. And to my mind, it's not necessarily will be 100%. It's not necessarily will be 100%. But getting even few subscribers, that encourages, first of all, us, that motivates us as journalists. That shows that we have chosen the right path to go forward. And to my mind, it's even much more important to have at least one subscriber, because it's really the only example that our work is worth to be paid. I mean, that has quality in it. So yes, I understand that problem with the local minorities. They are usually less financially powerful, and that's why we have a combination of different ways of financing these kind of medias. But to my mind, that not takes away the responsibility for a media company to work in the direction to earn money from the job they are doing. And to my mind, we always have that on our minds. Otherwise, we will lose our focus very easily.
Professor, do you have any insights in the media business?
As an outsider, I think Rolandas has already exposed very important issues. I would take this question from that perspective, that I would say that uncertainty is a dominant element of our everyday life. So we have to be prepared to face uncertainty. And I would suggest for everybody who is struggling with important questions, whether to start a new media, whether to invest into media, I think we have to overcome that uncertainty. But to overcome that feeling of uncertainty, we need a very strong moral spin. We need to have a very strong trust in and belief in the ideals that we want to cherish. So, as Rolandas mentioned, investing and working just for a small audience, that's already something. I think our media, mainstream media, I have now in my mind, it's of course, it is struggling in this uncertain economic environment, uncertain digital environment, with the sort of strong pressure of platforms and user clicks by producing clickbait journalism and so forth. And it's very easy to slip over from your ideals. But we have to stick to our ideals, and I would say that strong media or stronger media groups could help smaller minority media groups by inserting maybe some of these sections in minority languages, by diversifying their sort of their flow of information with few tips, few kind of respect signals, by supporting minority languages. And probably then this sort of a move could give an inspiration for a smaller minority media. So I think everything is possible, but what we need a supportive environment, psychologically supportive and solidary environment. Now I think we are too competitive and too sort of suspicious looking to each other. I think the data that I've showed is emblematic for smaller countries, for younger democracies, but not only for younger democracies, but for those democracies that have skipped out of authoritarian regimes in our part of Europe, but also in Southern Europe. And that's not a one-day process to cultivate this strength, this assurance, this resilience. It's a very long time requiring process that requires investments from the media, from education, from politicians, from culture, from everyday life situations.
I will just one small remark. When I talked about subscription, I not necessarily meant that they should pay directly for subscription. There's one more form I already mentioned, the Guardian newspaper. There are funded newspaper, yes, but the readers put money into the fund of, I don't know, journalistic freedom, my beloved media, or whatever you can call it. But I think to get at least one penny for what you are doing, that will raise your motivation very much. It means that you're doing something valuable, and try that method, and then you will be surprised how many people, if you really feel that you're doing good product for them, they will be eager to share some money with you. That sharing some money is not necessarily a fixed price. So I have €1, I can put €1. I have 10, I want to donate 10 euros. This is the way as well to not to finance fully the operation, but at least to get some to check with the market, what are you doing, and do you do it well.
Yeah. Talking about the markets, I suppose what the problem was with, let's say, the minority languages media in the Baltic states was that the common assumption was that the free market will sort everything out. And what do we have now? We have that those small, as we call it, niche medias. We have to compete not only with each other, but we have to also compete with media which is coming from the East, made in the Kremlin. You mentioned also that parts of media should also pay attention to the minority languages. Let's say not only doing the media in Latvian or Lithuanian or Estonian, but also turning a little bit into minority languages, but I suppose the problem is that it is not very profitable. So my other question is that, do you think that the state should start paying more attention and to the problems of the minority language media and start somehow chip in, start encouraging the established media broadcasters, established media portals to actually pay more attention or to have actually something in minority languages? Because as we see, when the problem comes, we realize that some of those minorities in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, they actually living in a completely different information sphere, because they are more easier, they prompt to read and listen to, noises and voices coming from the East. So should we actually encourage, and I would like to ask Mr. Rolandas Barisas, have you thought about, actually putting something in Russian, or making something in the Baltic media company on business and have it in Russian or in English? I don't know, but just some ideas.
Good question. I think it's a broader problem. It's not only media problem, it's a society problem. And I think we are living in times when we a little bit forgot our minorities, and forgot for many reasons maybe, and they may be objective in many cases. For example, they were not speaking native language. Yes, they were sorry, not native. How do I call it? Which is native. They're speaking their own language, but they don't want to speak national country. State language, yes, official language. And I think there should be movement from both directions. When you show your loyalty to the place to the country where you're living, you always get respond the same way. Who should show this emphasis? Yes, I think yes, state stronger in this case, and society should put more efforts in this direction. And to my mind, we forgot about that, and there were some objective reasons. We were so engaged in other things, and yes, competition. We had no experience. We thought that market will sort out, and then we later understood that not everything is sorted out by the free market, and the free market can create a lot of problems. But you need time to get that knowledge. And I think today, what again, I always saying to look for positive things. To my mind, society already found out that we should not leave anybody aside. They are the same equal members of our society. Yes, they for some reasons were forgotten, and we must pay them back. That we must stretch our hand to help them to become integral part of this country. And to my mind, that demands efforts from both sides, but the stronger part should make more efforts. And that's why I say that probably it's not easy to produce, to move in very market-driven models of business. There should be some combination of these models. And to say the truth, we were the minority media in this country. It sounds strange, writing in Lithuanian language, we're minority because we're very small. Yeah. But how we're solving? We're solving through the network. I mentioned in my presentation a network. We had our colleagues in Estonia, we had our colleagues in Latvia, and we're exchanging the content. We're helping each other because there was some interesting content to each other, and we were putting extra value translating this content. Yes, we moved to English language, trying to attract not only those foreigners who are working here, but those who maybe not speak Lithuanian, but speak other languages, and probably they know English. It was not a successful story. So I think anyway there will be some combined way of producing products to local minorities. But to my mind, it's very important to stress that we should encourage local minorities to look for more integration. Because it's not enemy countries, it's your living place, living state, and the better we understand each other, the stronger we'll be in each place. And all those voices from abroad, they're not our friends. They really have very clear goals and targets, and they are much more in propaganda mode than in information mode, and that we should be very careful. And if you want to really to live normal life, we should move in both directions. I mean, from to local minorities, and local minorities moving to local majorities.
It takes two to dance tango.
Sorry?
It takes two to dance tango.
Yes.
And I would like to just maybe continue on this question, is that let's say the Baltic, let's say Baltic national minorities, of course, its franca lingua is Russian. Most of them speak Russian. Do you think that are they doing enough, as the Baltic media companies and the Russian-speaking minorities? Do they do enough actually to cooperate between Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia? Do you think it's possible to create some identity of the Baltic Russian, not just Latvian, Estonian, and Russian-speaking or Russian-speaking person? You know? Is it? Can we move towards this direction also?
Thank you. Very ambitious question. Right. Very interesting question. I have never thought about that. I would probably need to have a sort of some bigger moment to think about that and to do some research. My first reaction would be that very difficult. From media perspective and from media scholar perspective, I have been partnering with different European media analysis projects, and very often I found representing free Baltic countries. But I know that these free Baltic countries' political cultures, histories, they are very different. There are certainly similarities in some perceptions, but still history and culture are fundamental dimensions that define who we are. And we cannot ignore that. And even geographic spots. We are located at the Baltic Sea, but still geographic spots are very different. And that shapes our mentalities. We want that or not. So even in digital world, that's important, that's significant. So geography and climate plays a big role even in a digital world. So my sort of natural reaction is that I wouldn't go for that. I would strengthen some specific local cultural element, and I would invest in that. But for that, you need, of course, you need finances. But together with finances, you need a strong belief. You need an open heart and love for the language that you are working in. So I would like to continue still what Rolandas was referring about the role of the state. I think in Lithuania, because I know the context so well, we are so polarized. That's our tradition, that's our culture, and it sits in our bones, in our blood. So this kind of cultural, political polarization, it's very conflictual. And this conflict sits on the top level. If we look at the legal system, at this fundamental element, we see that we do not have a law on national minorities. We do not have a definition of what is national language media. We do not have a concept. We do not have an understanding. And then we do not have an understanding and concept that we do not put into words. It sits somewhere, but in different heads, it might have different elements. So we need to find a consensual agreement. To find that, it's very complex, very difficult. If there is this sort of attitude, a little bit sort of conflictual, a little bit jealousy, or I don't know what kind of elements play the strongest role there. But I strongly believe that the state is us. State, if we want to have an effect and kind of guaranteed effect, if we want to protect minority languages and cultures, the state needs to make a first step. And even in finding financial mechanisms, having some specific calls for national minority media to support small, big projects and so forth. So I would say that...
I would like to add that, sorry, but it's really a very interesting point. I mean, we should press our state. We must make pressure. Not only minorities must make pressure, yes, but very important that not that we native language speaking people can make pressure, and media to support minorities, because it makes such fantastic environment when we have different cultures and that builds different possibilities. It enriches as well us these small nations. talking about those possibilities, you asked me, can we produce some native language media? No, it's financially it's catastrophe. So and today media is not powerful enough to allocate resources for some idealistic, even seeing some possibilities for that. It's very difficult to do. But I think there's another thing of partnerships. For example, if somebody in Lithuania would like to get some content, business content we produce, and we can share without any finances, but with this content we can allow to reprint something. But this can be our a role in helping local minorities. If you want to see something interesting, please come to me or write to me, and I will give the permission to use the
translate into.
Yeah, but you will do yourself the rest. I mean, but you can use in your media some content.
So that is a great example that even private business could contribute to as we say, the well-being of all society, because the harmony in society has to involve this all people have to be included, and all people have to feel that they are a big part of the society. Unfortunately, our time is running very fast, and I would love to ask many questions, but maybe we're coming to this coming from the same question, and the last question actually from the same author, and short question, maybe a brief answer if it's possible. Should all media be profitable? Very wide question.
Good question. If you have resources to live on, so then I will answer no. But if you don't have, you must be profitable. So this is again, it's a more philosophical question, and I see a lot of medias which are financed in combined way. I mean, they are not profitable, non-profitable organizations, but they're getting certain resources. Some part of them, of the resources, they're earning, some part they're getting some in another way. But to get these resources, I mean, for financing your activities, journalistic activities, first of all, you should win the respect and trust of the minority society, your audience. If you don't have it, nobody will support your medias, even on the government level. So you should be strong in there and build your relationship first of all with the society.
And so, what is the academic view on?
I would say, again, it's a different concept. What means profitable, and from different cultural approaches and perspective approaches, profit can be understood in different terms. My quick reaction would be, if I'm not profitable with my products, designs, and media content myself, I might be exploited. So especially in digital times, in times of platformization, when all the datafication, algorithmization takes lead as philosophies, no, not philosophies, as ideologies, sort of setting standards for our everyday life, I think that's dangerous. So we need to be profitable, but on our own value basis. And I strongly encourage to get back on democratic solidarity, human rights, openness, transparency, all these principles that in many ways, mainstream Lithuanian, Latvian, and Estonian media has sort of given up with many of those. So I think it's history goes in circles. Journalism develops in cycles. So we had this process of professionalization. Now probably it's now reinstitutionalization of values. The settled moment will come. I strongly believe in that. Maybe public service broadcasters, public service media have to take sort of a stronger lead in that. They can be the standard setters. Actually, they should be the standard setters, but in this diverse and multi-voice vocal society, well, universities can be standard setters.
Yeah, I would like to stress a very important thing. Values, and one more time, values. If you have values, you will not accept money from outside who has different goals financing you. I mean, that's why I say very important to establish your real relationship, normal relationship with the society you're working for. Otherwise, somebody will come from outside, they will pay money, but they will always have sometimes, quite often they have different values and the different goals. And if you're ready to become the tool in the hands of somebody playing, I don't know, games which are not very friendly, so you only ruin your audience, because people will stay again polarized, and that not be beneficial to the society. And I think it's very important to have values. Journalists, reporters should always have values. And I even telling this question was not many times raised in different audiences about Verslo Genius. Very shortly, I know that we're running on time. That said, what you will do if you will have what is, first of all, money or values? And I very clearly stated to my employees and to my shareholders, if I will have one day to choose between profit and media, I will kill media if I would be forced to make profit, because media anyway will die. So that's my internal decision. This is my strong value basis on which I built journalism. If somebody would like to buy me, then I will kill media.
Good luck.
I will kill media.
So thank you very much. Fantastic end to our panel. Very good answer to the question. So profits and values. So they have to be in a really, really big balance. And another value which we supposed to keep is punctuality and time. And we are not very good at that today. So we have to finish now, and we will have a 5 minutes break until the next session number 3. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll see you in 5 minutes. Hello there. Good to see you once again. Welcome back from the coffee break to the last session. The name of the session is Journalism Challenges in Fragmented Environments. So we had the second session heavily dominated by Lithuanians, and the last session we back to the Baltic cooperation, and we're going to have a Latvian and an Estonian. So we start with the first keynote speaker, who is Rita Rudusha, who is a development consultant of LTV Latvia. Rita will present the Rus LSM platform and the challenges of the reaching a minority audience. Hello, Rita, and good to see you.
Hi.
Hi. Labdien. So, without further ado, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Ruslanas. Hello, dear audience. Greetings from Riga. My name is Rita Rudusha. I'm currently a development consultant for LTV, but I actually have a long history of working for the public television in various roles, most recently as the program director. And in that capacity, I have been involved in developing and launching the Rus LSM multimedia platform for minority audiences, which will be the topic of my presentation. In the previous session, I can't remember who, but said a very good thought to begin with, that there was a perception that the free market will sort everything out when it comes to minority audiences, which of course didn't happen and couldn't happen on its own, because minority audiences in Latvia and in Estonia, my colleague Ekaterina will talk about it after my presentation, minority audiences represent a niche audience in a very small market, which of course is a challenge. And this part of the audience cannot really be reached without a very concerted, focused effort from the government and support systems and funding mechanisms to reach that audience. And I will tell you how Rus LSM in its current form came into being and what it took to get there. So let's start from the beginning. The local content for primarily Russian-speaking audience, minority audience, is produced locally was produced at the beginning when we started thinking about it by the following players. So there is Latvian Radio 4, which is a public media channel that has been in operation for a long time. There was Ruskое Вещание, the television production on Latvian television, 5 formats, news and current affairs, that came into being in 2014. And then there was a Rus LSM news site in kind of a traditional form, mostly textual, but also integrating some of the content from television and radio. On the commercial side, the main players were Rus Delfi and still are Rus Delfi and TVNet. But we, of course, all know that what is not in this picture, but is always in the background, are the platforms and television channels from Russia that are widely, abundantly present on cable networks and, of course, also internet platforms that are produced in Russia. And they have a large influence on the local market. But what is the power of local players is the local relevance of the news, which is something that I will talk about also later. When we go to the beginning of kind of envisioning Rus LSM as a multimedia platform, for the starting point for us was the empirical evidence that showed the following picture, that the television audience is steadily going down, has been going down in the last 15 years, and also it is aging. Here you can see the audience, the demographic pie of the audience of Ruskое Вещание, or the Russian-produced newscast on LTV channel. But 77% of the audience members are over 55 years old. And at the same time, we see that the internet consumption is going up. This is a screenshot from the most recent public value test produced by the Latvian television, where we see that 40% of people in Latvia use internet for more than 3 hours. I'm sorry, this is my cat in the background that also demands attention, but she will have to wait. Others, 19% are 2 to 3 hours, and so on and so forth. And so the internet consumption is also going up. So there's an opposite direction to the television consumption. And we see that the audience that is online is also young. So television audience going down and getting older, internet audience is going up and getting younger. And the consumption in the age group from 16 to 24 is close to 100%. But the audience that interests us in the case of Rus LSM is 24 to 55-year-olds who are also over 90% consumption in the kind of weekly broadband. So once we have decided that there needs to be a platform, because initially, and again, my colleague from Estonia will remember, there was an idea to have a channel in the Russian language on public television. but that was stopped. There was no political will for a television channel. We were sent back to the drawing board, and then we produced the concept for multimedia platform, which first emerged in 2016. Then it was sent back, and it kept moving from one yearly plan to the next yearly plan, and finally in 2020. The regulator said, yes, now you go and produce the Rus LSM platform for minorities on an extremely short notice. Just in 6 months' time, you have to be up and running. So after this paper chase, what happened is that you have to get from that point when it's just the concept to the point where you actually serve your audiences. You have to learn various formats in which to work to address those audiences, because if content producers are used to working in television and using their skills, their audio-visual skills, basically for traditional platform and traditional formats, they have to be able to communicate with that audience in a different format. And here's just one screenshot of the new format, mainly for the mobile phone, which is a storytelling in the form of messaging, where you can tell a journalistic story in a format that resembles how two friends are exchanging messages on one topic. So there were several months of learning how to talk to audiences in the language that fits the digital consumption. Another thing that needed to happen was the structural change. Again, the screenshot from a much larger document. This is just one little spot. That the entire structure of Latvian television, that is a 500 people strong, big company by Latvian standards, had to be restructured to fit this content production. And importantly, and particularly topically in the context of this conference being supported by the Nordic Council of Ministers, we had to find money for this production, because it was not within the annual budget. There was no allocation for the multimedia production, for multimedia studio that costs quite a lot of money, and for digital formats and all the tools and equipment that we need. And lastly, in addition to structural changes, fundraising, investing into the new skills of the employees, of course, there had to be a very detailed calendar of what happens and what day, to make sure that there is no interruption in content production, that there is a continuous production of news for those who consume news in the linear format, those who consume news online. The studios within Latvian television had to be swapped. The Latvian content production moved to another studio to free space for 24-hour availability for the Russian content, which wasn't the case before. So it was a very complex, logistically, financially, and in terms of investment into content producers, a very complex undertaking, which I don't really have much time to go into detail, but it is important to list those steps to understand how we got from where we were to the actual production. Knowing that the audience that we are addressing are economically active people between 25 to 55. In one of the earlier slides that you may recall, they are among the most active consumers of the internet. So this is the audience that we are talking to. We are bringing together the best that different producers of public media content and public interest content are producing. So there is textual from Rus LSM as a news site. There is audio from Latvian Radio 4. There is audio-visual production that was formerly done by Ruskое Вещание television, and all that combined, plus the new skills that content producers had learned over the course of several months of training, led to a completely new style of talking to the audience, of addressing the audience, that is friendly, that serves as a meeting space between different communities in Latvia, that uses local idols, local opinion leaders that appeal to the minority audiences. And I'll play a very short video that I think illustrates very well the style that Rus LSM currently works in after being launched in mid-September. And this particular project was actually supported by Nordic Council of Ministers.
Держи мастюху. Лучше не объяснишь.
Keep cool. Hello, I'm Inters Burtulis, and the word of the day today is turiburu. Turiburu means keep your sail. If you are a sailor, you will hear this from your captain, whereas in everyday life, this is an encouragement to keep up. Turiburu. We speak Latvian.
What you see is a playful, friendly, appealing style that also features a local celebrity. Inters Burtulis, the presenter of this series, is a singer who is well known and equally loved in both communities. The Latvian-speaking community and the Russian-speaking community. And in this way, the Rus LSM is a platform which, of course, also carries news and current affairs and discussions that forms the core of the platform, but also offers different types of content that is lighter, that is lifestyle, and also crucially, I would say, brings the audiences together, brings the communities together, bridging the gap that had been existing in Latvia for far too long a time. And at the very end, I will show you a few figures that you will see. Of course, it's a bit too early to actually talk about success, because Rus LSM in its new form of multimedia platform that heavily features audiovisual content, that has its own studio, only has been operational since mid-September. So we would really need to wait till, say, early next year to have to see and demonstrate the audience growth. But we certainly see a very, very promising trend. And because this platform works not just on Rus LSM as a platform, which is part of LTV website, that is a bigger website that has also LSM in Latvian and LSM in English, and Rus LSM as a multimedia platform. and also has pages for Latvian radio channels and for Latvian television channels. So not just on website, it works also on Facebook, it works on Instagram, it works on TikTok, wherever the audience that it wants to address is present. I'm sorry, I lost my chart. So Rus LSM on Facebook has seen a growth of weekly audience reach, which almost hits a 2 million mark in October. And it also has seen a very significant audience growth on the actual website. So to sum up, I would like to stop sharing my screen and finish my presentation without the screen, and to say that the starting point was not very promising. A small market with fragmented audiences, with very heavy presence of Russian channels and Russian platforms from Russia, with very little money for new content production. But where we are today, with the combined effort and also with some donor support that needs to be highlighted here, we are enjoying the result of this combined effort in Rus LSM as a platform, all its social media profiles, and we see that audience finds it, that there is new audience coming, because not just because it is a high quality content that is of local relevance, which is the power of local public media, but also because it offers something that is not and never will be present on any of the channels that are from the East, which is the local community, and bringing these communities together and looking for what we have in common and nurturing that narrative that we all live here. These are our shared problems. These are our shared joys and experiences. Thank you.
Paldies, Rita. Thank you so much for a very interesting presentation. And just before you go, I would like to ask you one or two questions about what I saw and what some ideas came to my mind. Do you think that Russian or minority language medias are in the Baltic states, they cooperate enough? And do you think that they could cooperate more? And do you think where and how could they cooperate more?
I don't think we cooperate enough, but also the cooperation has to be based in what our audiences want. There can't be just artificial cooperation for the cooperation, tick in the box. Because if we look at the audience data and what are the top 3 issues that audiences want, what they search for, and the number 1 is local news. So they will primarily use this content for local news. At the same time, again, audience research shows that they would like to know more about what's happening in the neighbors, and the Russian language in particular offers, this is a great asset, that you can expand your point of reference, and you can expand the number of experts that are available to you. And I think that in this respect, that cooperation could really be more active and intense. I see it happening already in Rus LSM also. They use Estonian colleagues as guests in the studio via link. That could be happening more, and I think audiences will appreciate that. But I don't think there should be in these telebridges in the style of the early 90s, where we just bring many people together, and there's Tallinn, Vilnius, and Riga. That would not be necessary, and the audiences don't really ask for it.
Thank you.
We need to listen to the audience.
And since you spoke about local, a lot about local, what about LSM? Are you concentrated mostly around Riga, or do you have sort of coverage of local Latvian landscape from the regions? Is it how is that working out?
That is one of the actually priorities when it comes to what Rus LSM is covering and needs to actually cover even more. The focus is on those communities with higher percentage of minority audiences, and that is primarily in the case of Latvia, it's Daugavpils, it's also Liepāja and other cities. I would say there isn't enough at this point, maybe local cooperation partners or local correspondents, but I hope that there'll be more as time comes. Certainly LSM as a news website had developed a network of correspondents, but they are not yet working as kind of in audiovisual format as much as the platform demands. But when the platform was launched, one of the kind of features that make it stand apart were live broadcasts from other parts of Latvia. Because if you stay only in Riga, again, you are not serving your audience well, because your audience is not just in Riga.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We know that you have to rush somewhere else, so we will not keep you any longer. And paldies and turim buru. Okay, so we have next presenter from Estonia, who is Ekaterina Taklaya. She's editor-in-chief of ETV Plus of Estonia. Ekaterina will present the challenges of ETV Plus's daily work. Lack of funding, lack of Russian journalists, small audiences, or maybe some positive things. So, Ekaterina?
I would like to begin a little bit with the background and maybe some context, saying a few words about ETV Plus, how it was created, and where we are standing now. Our channel was created in 2015, so we are very young, and we are created with the Estonian Public Broadcasting. We are now the biggest producer of local content among available TV channels in Russian. Every morning we produce an hour and a half of the morning show, which includes morning news, guests in the studios, reports from our journalists. And we also show half an hour of news in the evening, followed by a 50-minute program, which is every day different. We work now in a variety of formats. We have talk shows, interviews on topical issues and current affairs. We have investigative journalism program. We have reality shows, quiz shows, music shows, and of course we produce to some extent our own documentaries, and we have so far produced even 3 fiction series. One of them was a sitcom supported by the Nordic Council, and then also 2 drama series. As you can imagine, television production is quite costly, and we're limited in our budget funds. And to produce fiction series, we really usually need support of our partners. But I hope that we will be able to continue in this direction, because the drama series is really a very popular trend now in Estonia and worldwide, and the storytelling and the series itself is very popular. The rest of the program is acquisition content. We procure films, documentaries, historical, criminal, drama series, and we show a lot of content which is originally produced in the Russian language, but not only in Russia, also in the Ukraine and other countries where there is film production in the Russian language. But also we show content which is produced by the BBC, Deutsche Welle, producers in Nordic countries. And we share a lot of acquisition content with our sister channels, Estonia language channels, ETV and ETV2. I would like now to please show a very short show reel so that you get the idea of what the channel.
Каждый день ЭТВ Плюс показывает.
Every day ETV Plus tells you about life in Estonia and the world. There are subtitles.
Свежие и актуальные новости. Дискуссии на волнующие общество темы. Журналистские расследования. Интервью с ключевыми персонами и экспертами. И, конечно же, игры и телешоу. Спортивные трансляции. Сериалы. Шедевры мирового кинематографа. Любимая классика и новое русское кино. А также потрясающие документальные фильмы. Спасибо, что вы с нами. ЭТВ Плюс. Каждый день свой плюс.
Thank you very much. Where we are standing now with our program, it has been mentioned by the previous speakers that actually creating a media platform for the Russian-speaking minorities is a big challenge, and we're always placed in a very competitive environment, because if we're talking about all the Baltic countries and Estonia as well, we are competing with big Russia channels produced in Russia, which have a very long history, which have very big budgets for production of content, and which have older and quite stable audience, which does not like to change not preferences, but maybe convenience or the habit of watching a certain channel. But still, looking at the data, which we have now, ETV Plus is a leader in Estonia in a monthly reach of audience among the Russia channels. So we're talking about ETV Plus versus PBK, RTR, and TV Mir, and some other channels. And this year we had up to 400,000 unique viewers per month. We're also leading in weekly reach, up to 230,000 unique viewers this year. Our daily reach is up to 84,000. But I should say that this figure is comparable to NTV Mir, PBK, and other bigger channels, and the difference is 5 to 25%. So when we're not the first there yet, but we're more or less in the same boat. Where we're not the first is the share of viewing time. Our monthly average in this year is 1.8% and 4.4% among the Russian language audience, our target audience. But the tendency is very positive. If we look back at the statistics that Kantar Emmer offers, you can see that, let's say back 3 or 4 years ago, our difference with PBK and RTR was 5-fold, and now it is 2-fold. So with PBK and TVMIR, if our number is 1.8% now, then their number is 3.4% last month. So we are growing steadily. And of course, this is one of our challenges to make the audience stay on our channel longer and watch us longer. And I'll talk a little bit later about what we should do to achieve this. I should also say that we are also the most trusted media channel among the Russian-speaking audience in Estonia. When the first coronavirus pandemic broke out, the Estonian State Office ordered a research from Kantar Emmer, which showed that we're number one among all online news platforms, radio channels, and other television stations. So when there is a crisis situation, when there is really something on the agenda which people need to know about, and they need to use trustworthy source, then they turn to ETV+. They know that we're there. And we're also at the top of the media brands rating. Out of the 74 most popular brands in Estonia, we are on the 8th place. And the audience likes ETV Plus because of course, news content, because as Rita said before, people, first of all, consume local media to know what is happening in their environment, where they're living. And because we provide content in mother tongue, that is in Russian language, and that was very important for the people who were questioned. And also we offer good quality programs. Now about our challenges. As I said, the share of viewing time is our challenge now. We want people to watch us longer. For this, I believe we need to produce more of the original content. For example, we could have a daily evening program, magazine type of program, where we could summarize the day, the most important topics, maybe analyze them, talk to experts. We need to produce more drama series, and we could maybe invest more into special projects. If we have Estonia's Independence Day, if we have Mother's Day, Father's Day, other historical or national days, we could produce more special content for that. For this, of course, we need more budget. And we also need to show and procure higher quality, newest, latest, and more exclusive content. I'm talking here about, again, documentaries, fiction, films, and series. Because again, when we get a license to show this or that content, the license is open to the Baltic market. And depending on how new this content is, on how popular it is, on how exclusive the license is, the more expensive it is. Here we, as I have already also mentioned, are sharing some content with our Estonian language channels, ETV and ETV2. But I should also say that Russian-speaking audience prefers original content produced in Russian, maybe for the language reasons, but also because you can relate to the culture, to the storyline, to history, to all maybe other smaller aspects. And it's probably a little bit more of a habit to consume fiction and series in Russian. Again, if we're talking about Estonian channels, then their Russian language content is not as popular, and the audience of the Estonian channels would prefer content produced in Europe, but still we can share and find common content that we can both show. Another thing that I would like maybe to mention is that actually we're not competing in terms of viewing time only with the big Russia channels, but also with some other channels and internet platforms such as YouTube and Netflix. And again, EMER research, recent research showed that among the Russian-speaking audience, the share of, let's say, the share of 42% of share of viewing time of the Russian-speaking audience in Estonia belongs to TV channels, which EMER doesn't even measure, and internet platforms such as YouTube and Netflix that EMER doesn't share either. And this is doesn't measure either. And this is also a very big percentage, 42%. If we look at the Estonian side, this percentage is 20%, which means that this market is for us more competitive. We don't only compete with the big Russian channels, but also with many other channels that offer content in the Russian language. Another channel that I would like to talk about is new generation of Russian-speaking journalists. As you might know, there are still schools in Estonia that offer education in Russian language, and you can receive basic education, first to the 9th grade, completely in Russian. But if you want to go to gymnasium, then you have to study at least 60% of the subjects in Estonia. And this, of course, is very logical and very good because Estonian is a national language. It also gives these young Russian-speaking teenagers better chances, preparation to be able to cope in Estonian universities when they have to study in Estonian. It also gives them in the future better advantages on the labor market and opens a lot more opportunities in Estonia, career-wise and otherwise, if you know the language. But the downside for the Russian language media in Estonia is that we don't have a new generation of professionals who can work in Russian-speaking Russian language media, and especially on TV, because television is a very demanding platform. I think that there was a possibility, an opportunity to study journalism in Russian at Tallinn University until the year 2016, when it was closed down. So when Russian kids whose language, native mother tongue is Russian, want to become journalists, they enter Tallinn University and study journalism in Estonian. What we have at the end, again, from the perspective of the Russian platforms, is that the command of the language, which is the most important instrument for a journalist, is not good enough. That they also, after they graduate, they might prefer taking a job position in Estonian media, because of course it's a larger audience It's big media houses, more career opportunities, maybe a better salary as well. So this is an issue for us. And so far, we're trying to solve it by offering all the teenagers summer schools, like we had one last summer in Narva. We had about 12 to 15 young teenagers who were very interesting and eager to learn about our profession. And they could learn from our best journalists working on ETV Plus, also our Radio 4 channel and Narva studio. And it was a very interesting experience, not only for the children, but also for our journalists, because some of them said that now we have another reason to work and produce content and think maybe about new formats and challenges, how to get to this audience as well. And here I'm gradually moving on to the last challenge, is younger audiences and how to reach them. You can see a chart here. And on the left is ETV Plus audience profile. On the right, you can see the average for our main competitors, PBK, RTR, and NTV, MIR. So you can see that mostly television audience is 50 plus, but ETV Plus's audience is in general younger than our competitors. And you can see that the segment of the age group 35 to 49 is twice as big as with the competitors. And we have much better figures at the age group starting from 4 till 18. But at the same time, you can see that they're very minimal percentages and numbers. And of course, when we have limited budget and limited resources, and when we produce something, of course, we have to bear in mind what is the correlation and what is the balance between the money invested and the audience which is behind this product. And this is always a very difficult choice. We have tried and showed content, including Technolic, about which Jana spoke earlier this morning. But so far, I can see that younger audience, let's say till the age of 25, is used to consume media on other devices, mobile devices, and they want to consume it on demand. They're not going to wait till next week until you show the next episode of their favorite series, and they're not going to wait even till tomorrow. They want to watch it when they want to watch it, and they want to watch 2, 3, 4 episodes in a row. So I think that we should, of course, produce something for younger audiences, but maybe using different platforms. And our target group maybe is 18 to 34 and 35 plus. So if we cater now on our linear television for that audience, then we will have consistent audience and we will be growing it. I'm also convinced that that television and consumption of television is something that comes with your life at the certain period of life when you have families, when you have partners, when you spend more time at home, when you are preparing dinner in the evening and the television is on, and this is when people start watching television. I think because we have already spent quite much time, I think I'll stop here. And if you have any questions, that I will try to answer them.
Thank you so much for presentation. And, it sounded like a very, very positive ending for your presentation, because It is very, very important to reach the younger audience, and all medias are actually struggling with that. And I see that ETV Plus is doing very, very well. So congratulations on this. And I'm afraid that I will not have time to ask many questions, but I would like to ask a very peculiar question because I know that ATV is using subtitles. They're using subtitles. They're not voice over content in foreign languages. Is it the case with ETV Plus? Do you use also subtitles if it is not in Russian? And if so, how did you manage where to start, and how did you manage to achieve that?
Well, we are actually not using the subtitles. Dubbing is very expensive for us, but when we procure licenses for bigger fiction films or series, then we prefer to buy dubbed versions. But if not, if it is documentaries or some other content, then we usually use the voiceover. So we have two voices, man's voice and a woman's voice, because Russian audience, because Russian is a big language, is in the number of users. I think it's the same as with the Spanish and German. It's just a very big habit, and the Russians will not, let's say, having the small audience and very big ambitions. This would be another small minus for us, which we don't want to risk.
Absolutely, this is what I understood. So I'm very sorry we are short of time. I have more questions to ask, but I'm afraid we have to finish there. And I would like to also express our apology for a wrong video. It was very unfortunate, but this is welcome to the new world, as I said at the beginning of our conference. This is, we would like to have all of you here in Vilnius or to get all of you together, but in live. But this is how it is. I'm afraid that we done what we could. So I hope that you had, Ekaterina, good also information from the conference, got good feedback. Thank you so much for your presentation once again, and good luck with your fantastic channel. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, dear all, we are a little bit behind the time again, and I would like to thank you all for participating in this conference, and we learned so much from the participants of the conference. We brought some ideas and some very good examples that if you have appropriate funding, you could create really great content. And I think that through this conference we established that free markets, the hand of free market is not always working, and especially in media environments. And the Nordic Council with the Baltic Media Grant Program showed a very good example that if you spend some funds in local media, in the local languages, you can get very good results. And we all hope that this great example as a Nordic countries, they're trend setters in the Baltic states. So let's hope that the Nordic countries with this particular program they have set a great example for others to follow, and to help the local medias to survive, to flourish, and to create great content. And as I mentioned before, I would like to remind you that there's another program opened. It's called Nordic Media Grant Belarus Program, and the deadline of that program is 15th of November. So if you know people who are working with Belarus, or you're working yourself, so please apply for that grant. So also one more practical thing, the conference will be on video online. so you could watch it again in your own time. So this is the end of the program, the end of the grant program, the end of the conference. Thank you so much for being together, and maybe from the Baltic National Minority Languages Media, I would take this liberty to say thank you to the Nordic Council for creating such a program and to helping, as they say, every little helps. And this helped us a lot. So thank you very much, and good luck in your fantastic work.